Check, check. Can everyone hear me? Ooh, you can hear me now. So I'm Travis Towns from Allflex Livestock Intelligence. I'm very happy to be here today, and thank you all for being here as well. At Allflex, a big part of our business is activity and rumination monitoring, collars and ear tags. And a big part of it is that in 2011 we started by coming into the U.S. and advocating for a new management approach to manage cows. And we were very fortunate to attract very good dairymen early on, and these dairymen were a great part of us learning what the possibilities were in managing in a different way. And the farm here today that we're sponsoring is Fischer Clark Dairy out of Hatley, Wisconsin, and they exemplify what we advocate from a management approach every day. When we're proactive with cows, if we can nutritionally do the right things, great things happen. Also on the cow comfort standpoint, when we provide the right facilities for young stock, for our milking cows, for dry cows, they're going to respond for us. And then simply put, the reproductive side, the health side, the milk production side just becomes that much more efficient, and our labor likes it a lot better too, because we're only adding value-added touches to cows, and a lot of the extra touches we have on cows, we can eliminate them because we're doing the right things early on. So I'm going to pass it over to Mike here. They're going to tell their story of how they've evolved across time, and then also talk about what the farm is today, some of their management approaches, and then thinking into the future. So I'll hand it over to Mike.
Good morning. It's nice to see the room full. Apparently, the forecast of rain kept a few people off the farm today. And, you need to do that too, right? So a lot what you see on this picture here is, I guess it wasn't all planned. I think that's maybe a common denominator in Wisconsin, at least. A lot of farms started without a vision for how big they would get, at least. And that's certainly true of us. And so it's humbling to see how it evolved. And it actually turned out better than I thought it would. So that's the good news. This is the picture you're looking at here is what the farm was during the 1980s. And we actually had a parlor in the north end of that red barn there, the side you're looking at, the front side. I don't miss not having silos. It's a wonder I survived that. So in the early 2000s, we were here. And that was the approach we took to do this gradually, because we really didn't know where we were going, to tell you the truth. We had goals, but they weren't quite as lofty as it turned out. So. And that's what it looks like today from the north end. I gotta give our builders a little credit. Tex Construction has been phenomenal. They did a great job. It even survived all the snow. This is our latest barn here on the left, and here's the calf barn. And my daughter-in-law Heidi is going to talk about that because that's her expertise.
So yeah, I always tell everybody I have the Taj Mahal of calf barns. It's a very nice facility, especially in the Wisconsin winters. So it's a monoslope barn, and as you can see, can I have the pointer? As you can see here, all I have are 6 ceiling fans for ventilation, and we virtually have no pneumonia treatment or problems. And that's all. But because of the monoslope barn, the air goes up and it works like a chimney and it goes out through this vented area up here. This is all clear polycarb right here. So during the winter when it's minus 15, it can easily get into about 20 degrees in that calf barn in the afternoon. The sun comes in and it can go all the way back to this 4th row. And so the calves will stand up like you see here and they'll get the sun on their back and they just really enjoy it. We use the calf tail pens. So these ones here that are standing pretty tall, these are the next ones to be moved out. And then these ones we had moved out, and then we do a total tear down, clean, sanitize. This area here is our washroom. It's where we prep and do everything. So we have 128 pens, and during the wintertime, we have 8 newborn pens that we put heat lamps in, and they stay in there for 24 hours until they're dry. Then we move them into a pen. We have a very, I say a very easy 57-step program to feed calves. So everything is done very thoroughly. So we have a step-up feeding program, we have a step-down weaning program, and all of our protocols are written, laminated, and posted for all of our employees to read. So it's not just something that only I know how to do. The protocols are written, they're posted, employees are trained. We have a very extensive training program. And this is one of my employees. She's a neighbor girl. She helps us out. So they're all posted and it's easy so people will know what needs to be done and I don't have to be there doing everything. Then this is our heifer facility. So this is our newest heifer barn. This is a nice aerial shot of it. We have 10 pens of 16. So the calves stay in the calf barn until day 75, and then we move them up to this heifer facility, and they start out down here, and then they keep moving down till they get to the end down here. There's alley scrapers in this barn. So
I just want to say something about those alley scrapers. We used them every day last winter, and calves don't put out much heat, but that's the solar effect of this building. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, this building was also built, blueprinted off of our calf barn because that worked so well with the monoslope and the clear polycarb on this side. So getting that sunlight into that with the calves, and again in here, all we have are ceiling fans to stir the air, and we have very healthy calves because of it. So the calves move down through here. They're down here till about 6 months of age is how long they stay. And then at that point, they'll cross through this lane, and then they move into the older calf barn. So they kind of make an S as they move through, and then down here, they're about 200 days carrying calf at that point. So this is a lane that we put in. It's kind of modeled after Temple Grandin's philosophy of having blind corners to move cattle through. They move less stress, they're easy to push them through. The nice thing about that, the first calf barn, is I can move that 160 animals in less than 20 minutes. It's very efficient. So and they love it. They run down that lane. They think it's like the best.
This barn on the right, there's about 400 heifers in there, and they're kept in there till they're about 3 months from calving, and it's about 1 man-hour labor a day to care for those 400 head with drive-through feeding and mats.
Alley scrapers.
Alley scrapers.
Yeah, our philosophy, this barn takes us about 1 hour to manage per day, and then the smaller calves is about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes. So our philosophy when building buildings is they need to work for us. They have to be efficient. That's why we do the alley scrapers. We make sure that everything is comfortable for the animal. They're easy to handle in those barns. It's for employee safety. It's for the animal safety. So I want buildings to work for me. I don't want 4 walls and a roof. I want in a barn that's efficient because time is valuable.
That about 13 months is when they're bred, 13.3 months. And they're milking at 22 and a half months, which we kind of overdid it. We're trying to make our, let them grow a little bit more. The size is there, but the maturity isn't there. So we're slowing down a little bit. The system works a little bit too well if you let it.
Yeah, we went through some growth spurts. Once we got all our barns in place and, you know, we managed through a couple months of it, we noticed that the heifers were getting bigger quicker, and some of the slant bars and stuff had to be adjusted. And it's, you know, it's a good thing to have your animals exceed your expectations. So this is our tunnel ventilated cow barn, and this is a natural ventilated. Down here in this corner is where we have the freshening pens. And that is located here. Here's a vet room, and then here's my calf barn. So everything is efficient, and it's all right there. So when a calf is born, they can just bring it right on over to me. And then up here is where we were with the heifer barn. So we have a very tight little footprint that we keep. Here's our cow barn, the tunnel ventilated. We have sand bedding, again, scrapers in these barns. Clear polycarb again, getting that natural sunlight in there by the animals. They really do enjoy it and seem to do well.
That's partly because I don't like to waste good cropland.
That is true. He's very conscious about using cropland. So here's the tunnel ventilated fans. Those get cleaned once a year. Quite the chore.
We use frac sand for bedding. We got to haul that over 50 miles from over 50 miles away, but I found it works the best. It keeps cows clean. And I think that's because of on the frac sand, it has a square crystal, and that interaction of the cow with that square crystal in the sand tends to clean them. And that keeps your cell count down too.
Okay, you're up. Lagoon.
This is our leachate collection pit, which we just finished. They just poured the concrete in here about a couple weeks ago. Our manure system, as you all know, manure is the biggest pain on a dairy farm, but it's still an asset, and but you just have to deal with it. And we have a 3-stage system. This pit here is 8 feet deep, and it fills up entirely with sand. And that's mainly because it's pumped in there from this little room right here. So we pump our sand-laden manure into the first stage, and then it flows into the second, and then into the third. If we need to add liquid back, we pump it back, drop a pump down this ramp, pump it back over into the second or the first if we need to. But the sand-laden manure is all hauled with V-spreaders, and the rest is pumped and either hosed or transferred over at the field. This is kind of a nice compact setup too. We got for when we're harvesting crops, we can bring it. We got a road around the outside, so we get everything in a circular fashion. So we got the road around the lagoon in a circular fashion, so semis can move efficiently. And so We'll see how the leachate pit works, but we haven't emptied it yet. But we have a pipe. Hopefully the DNR will let us pump it to our center pivots. We have 9 center pivots on the farm. Oh, that's backwards. Part of a big part of our success has been our forage quality. This picture over here, that was a winter-killed alfalfa field. According to our harvest lab on a chopper, we harvested 10 tons to the acre of forage, basically 50-some% dry moisture, haylage. It was predominantly grass because we seeded all of our winter-killed fields with grass. The yields were phenomenal. We turned a disaster into the biggest yields we ever took off our hay fields this year. As you know, it's a good feeling in the fall if you got enough feed for your herd. Forage is the key when it comes to cropping if you're a dairyman. And so really a pleasant surprise. And I got to give the people at VitaPlus credit because we're a VitaPlus farm, and that was one of their ideas. We had planned this because we knew it was probably going to be a winter kill. And so we planned to reseed those fields, and we bought a 30-foot drill, a John Deere drill, that just worked phenomenal for interseeding fields, and we got that done in less than a week time, and you know, it was a perfect storm for grass this year. And one of the things we've learned is that cows are made for grass. Funny how as dairymen we kind of forgot that. The protein is there, the digestibility is there, everything a cow needs. We have a 60-pound dry matter intake, and grass just makes that happen. It really does. It really does. So this has changed my thinking about how you manage a dairy farm in Wisconsin. To me, since cows are made for grass, maybe we should be growing some grass. And if there's any possibility that you're going to have winter kill, we should be prepared to reseed those fields early in the spring with grass. On the first cutting, we got 1.7 tons of haylage because the grass had not really rooted, hadn't really started to grow too well. But by the second cutting, we're getting 3.5 tons. And so it didn't take long for that grass to take over. And by the fourth cutting, we had about 2.5 tons on the fourth cutting of grass, and there's a fifth cutting to make yet. A fifth cutting of grass that's nearly knee high. It's unbelievable. What kind of grass do you use? We used either orchard or rye or a combination thereof. So we had an annual ryegrass on the third year and beyond, and orchard grass on the first year winter-killed fields. So we were prepared for 2 scenarios. We wanted to keep that second year alfalfa and a new seeding possibly for 1 more year. So that's why we went with the orchard on those fields. But the thing about grass, where alfalfa gives it up in September, grass thrives. Where alfalfa doesn't like a heavy manure application, grass loves it. So putting manure on grass is just a no-brainer. And so we're growing more tons, using our manure more efficiently, making our farm more profitable by growing grass. And we're on some of the best alfalfa ground in Wisconsin. But I haven't given up on alfalfa. As the new seeding, it's still going to be alfalfa. But we're going to be prepared to plant grass anytime there's any winter kill at all. So it's rechanged my thinking big time. Here's my herdsman. Eduardo's been with us for 22 years. He tried to talk me out of the SCR system. I think he was thinking about me. He didn't want me to spend all that money. But he loves it. He loves it. He wouldn't give it up for anything. It actually really empowered him, really made him realize how important he was, and made him a much better employee. So that's kind of been the key to my management of people, is that to empower them, to trust them, to be willing to take the chance so they could grow. And that's why we've got, like 3 20-year employees on the farm, I think. And so as we learned how to manage cows in this large herd dairy phenomenon that's kind of taken over Wisconsin, we learned how to manage people too. Eduardo has taught me a lot along the way too. He taught me how to listen to what they have to say, because you can get a lot of wisdom if you talk to your employees, and that's hard if they're Hispanic or if they're Mexican. It's very hard to do that. You have to get to the point where you communicate. I got to give my daughter Becky, who was here, credit for that, because she taught him English in the Parlor, and he can actually translate, he can write it. He never went to school. He's a very smart man. And when we had 200 cows, he could identify all the cows by just standing in the Parlor and seeing their udder as they came in. And I knew right then and there he was a smart man. Go ahead, Heidi.
Am I on? Here we go. So we kind of have a low-touch approach to our reproduction. We heavily rely on the collars. We have a herd health check once a week. Thanks. Yeah, we have the herd health check once a week, but Eduardo comes in, oops, sorry about that. Eduardo comes in daily, and he has this view, and he comes in and he'll see which cows down here, these are the cows that something's not right with their rumination. So he comes in and he has his own to-do list. He can see, we know which cows are ready for AI, and then he has tags to check, so he has his own little portal that helps him manage his day and how we go through, the collars and how we manage all of that. So with our reproduction, we believe we need to let the collars do their job, but we also know that there's going to be a percentage of our cows that just don't show a standing heat, and then that's where we intervene at Herd Health with our reproduction protocol that we have. So what we do is we do no hormones until they're 90 days in milk for lactations 1 and 2, and then third lactation and greater, they're 100 days in milk. And we let them get to that point before we intervene with the vet, and she palpates them and checks them and makes sure, where are they at? Are they cycling? Do we need to intervene? So this just goes to show you some of our numbers down here. So our first lactation cows, 80% of them are getting bred off of the natural heat. So we only have to intervene on 20% of those animals. Lactation 2 is 75, and lactation 3 is the 68%. Our lactation our third lactation cows are our money makers. Those are our high producers. So sometimes we have to let them go a little bit further. And we know that if we let them go further into their lactation and allow that milk to drop a little bit, we can get them bred off of a natural heat. But we sometimes have to wait for that milk production to drop. There's a cow that was like at 175 pounds and we couldn't get her pregnant. And we tried doing off-sync and that didn't work. And finally we just kind of let her go. And when she got down below 150 pounds, she got bred off of a natural heat. But so the system is great because it allows you to kind of monitor those special cows that you have, and you can let them go. Whereas your normal breeding protocol, you might have DNB'd her because she wasn't getting pregnant, but she's a very successful cow in our herd. So with the protocol that we have, it's less stress on the cows. We're not intervening all the time. We're letting them be cows. We're not giving shots. They tell us when they're ready, and our breeder comes in, he looks at that screen, he knows which ones he has to go out and breed. So we're not constantly bugging them with shots. Cows don't like that, and then the end result is the higher quality of milk that we get and the longevity that we have. This is our parlor. We have a double 20 Gia parlor. This person is actually one of my calf barn employees. We're really good at cross-training. We like to make sure everybody can help out when needed. This is our parlor, or our subway. We have all the milk pulsators down there, thank you. So yeah, it keeps the parlor quiet and it's easy for maintenance. So if maintenance is due on the pieces of equipment, our milk company can come in, or not our milk company, but the equipment company can come in. They can go down there and do any maintenance or repairs along the way, and they're not tripping over the employees. And
That's really good for testing too. When the tester comes, he's down there, not up in the parlor, obviously.
Yeah, because the cows, they know when there's an extra person or a new face in the parlor, and it can kind of slow things down a little bit. So we milk 3 times a day, 4 a.m., noon, and 8 p.m. We kind of have a rotating milk schedule. The employees don't like to always be at the same time. So they work on average about 7 shifts a week. So they work 5 days a single shift, and then 1 day they do a double. And each milking shift is about 6.5 hours.
I want to say one thing. We maintain 5 houses on the farm for our employees, Mexicans in particular, which is, I think, really important when it comes to Mexicans.
Yeah, we encourage families. We have a lot of multi-generational. We have some fathers and their children that work for us, and we like that. Oh
yeah, we get, employees from the 2nd generation, which makes us a true family farm.
Yeah, we've kind of had to redefine family farm. It's not just our family, it's their families too. And like Mike had said earlier, they've been with us for over 20 years, and they're just as much a part of our family. So we really value our employees. I do employee meetings with the milking staff about every other month, and we pick different topics. I try to bring in different speakers. Eduardo is there to translate. So one time we did, our vet came and she did a biopsy of a udder.
Dr. Rebecca is here.
Yep. And we did a biopsy of an udder, and we went over all the different scenarios of like mastitis and what does dry cow treatment look like, and and just kind of help give them the whys to what we do. And then I have like a structure for all the meetings, so we always have a speaker, and then we always do a question period if there's other things we need to worry about, and then if there's any issues or concerns, I bring that to them, and I ask for them to come up with a solution to fix it.
I think that why is so important. If you don't share that with your employees, answer the question, why do we do it this way? You're not really teaching them anything. And I just wanted to bring that up.
So, and my philosophy is, I can come in and I can tell them, like, this is how we're going to do things now. Well, they're not going to respond positively. So if I bring the problem to them and I let them get engaged and be part of the solution, I find that half the time they probably have a better idea than I do, because they just know the procedure and what's going on that much more. And it helps them be a part of the team and that they're a part of the solution. And that's really, it's all about the empowering and making them a part of our success.
Sartori cheese, that's where our milk goes. And we've gotten numerous milk quality awards and cheese yield awards from Sartori. And thankfully, they got a nice premium program that helps. I think all the dairymen that are here know that if there was any profit in the last 3 years, it probably was in the premiums. And so that's how important that is. You just, without getting the premiums, you're not going to be successful. We all know that.
Mike, what kind of milk production are you making? Talk about the quality that you have.
Well, Dr. Scott Polk is here, and he's the state vet for Missouri, and he used to be our vet on the farm. And we work with Dr. Scott because he uses our numbers to teach his students, and some of his students are here today. And we, last year, actual milk sold was 34,515 pounds per cow. Energy corrected milk was 106. Butterfat 4.2 and protein 3.1. Cell count was 82. We've been over 2 years below 100,000. When you went in the new Parlor, interestingly, cell count went up to around 120 to 130. And I don't know this for sure, but I think it was when we changed the sand back to went to frac sand, because it took 3 months and it dropped, and it's been below 100,000 ever since. So it's been like 2 years below 100,000 since we switched to frac sand. A big part, it really, we overcomplicate somatic cell. Managing to prevent mastitis is more about keeping cows clean and milking them clean and having, keeping your equipment consistent, managing that, and the milk quality comes if you pay attention to those two things. And also, cows like it boring, and they like it clean, just like you and I. But that's 12 months, 365 days a year. If you slip up, well, you're going to pay a price, and usually it won't be tomorrow, but next month you'll know. And that's the way we manage milk quality. Oh, backwards. Well, this is a big part of why I farm, family.
They're all giggling.
You want this back?
Yeah. So leadership is really important to us. I mean, when it comes to like covering the bunker or cleaning the parlor or doing some of those, washing those ventilation fans, I'm right there. And I believe in working alongside my employees. I think you get a lot of respect that way. And I think one of the best things I ever did was I learned how to milk, and I'm in the parlor. I'm one of the backup people. I think that just spoke a lot, that I just don't come in and, say hi, how's it going, and then I walk out. They know that I'm there to work. And I will roll up my sleeves and work right alongside of them. And I think that has really gotten everybody on board as a team. And we do a lot of team leadership on the management side. Twice a year, we have a roundtable, we call it, where I bring in, Dr. Polk comes up, and he's kind of our facilitator. And we bring in our vet, our nutritionist, our bankers there. We get everybody around the table. There's from somebody from our genetics company, anybody that's part of the decision making and how we need to move ahead. We bring them into the room. We talk about how we did for the last 6 months or a year. And then we look ahead and where are some hot spots? Where are some areas of concern that we need to focus on? And we look at those numbers, and then we also make goals for the next year, or if there's any changes, and that's what we do. And then we have these meetings to follow up to make sure that we're hitting those goals. And it helps get all of our consultants, because sometimes it's hard to repeat that same message to all those different people that you work with, but if you can get them all in the room and you can have a discussion and they know names, it kind of closes that communication gap. You really get everybody rowing in the right direction, and they know that, you know, what Mike, mine, and John's goals are, and we can all move towards that. I think that that's really important to do. I think those meetings have become like people look forward to attending them and seeing the exciting stuff that we are capable of doing.
It's also a good way to educate your team because, you know, they are on a lot of different farms, and everybody's got a different management style, but this helps them sort out on what direction they need to go.
Yeah, because the last thing we need is a lone ranger, a consultant or somebody from another company coming in with their own agenda or ideas and not understanding what our philosophy is and why we are doing the things that we do. So I think that that really helps. It's a little bit challenging to try to coordinate that many schedules with that many people, but the value is there, and you know, we all make time for it. So we spend about an afternoon doing that. So we talked about the longevity of our employees. We had our first retirement last year, and now this November we have 2 more retirements. So we have 2 people that have been with us almost 20 years, a husband and wife, and they'll be heading back to Mexico and relaxing. And the good thing is we have virtually no turnover, and we already have the replacements hired and they're working. We kind of rely on our employees to network and help bring us. A lot of them, they're all related, and it definitely has its pros. And sometimes it's cons, but we can work through that. I like having the families. I like having that you get to know them, and then their kids can work with me in the calf barn, or they help my husband. So it's been a really a great thing to have that family. So also off the farm, I'm involved. I'm on the board for PPA, which is the Progressive Partnership for Progressive Agriculture. Thank you. Jolyn, our milk lady, she and I both serve on the board. We enjoy doing that. For me, that's the educational side. I'm also involved with EDGE on their policy committee on the national level. I think EDGE does a fantastic job advocating for farmers. We need to have our voices heard. I attended the DADCAP 51 hearing here in Wisconsin, where they wanted to change the setbacks for building in lagoons, as well as if for CAFOs, our relicensing would have been moved from the DNR level down to your local township level. For somebody like me who lives in somewhat of an agriculture lake community, we have a lot of retirees coming up from Milwaukee, Chicago, and what do they do in their retirement? They are active in the township, on the town board. So moving that licensing to the township level kind of scared me, because I would feel like I would be spending more time generating documents to prove that I was farming correctly, and because these people don't know, they don't have the background. So I went to the DADCAP 51 public hearing, made my comments, and had them submitted. And I think being vocal and being active in that sort of stuff is very important, and I encourage everybody to do it. They need to hear our voices. So
Yeah, I tried doing that through media, and guess what they did? The local television station then decided it was all right to show the video of the bad actor in the neighborhood who abused their cows as the start to our piece. You know, I thought that was disgusting. That's how ignorant they are, really.
We can have a little Q&A session on any questions out there. We'll pass around the mic on that as well. So.
Yes, in the back there on the left.
Can you tell us your views on robotic milking? I see you have a 2020. Just wondered if you think that would give your employees an advantage. They wouldn't have to work maybe quite so hard.
Could you? I had trouble with the accent, and I didn't hear all. Sorry.
Okay, sorry, I'll slow down. So can you tell us what your views are on robotic milking? You know, I mean, personally, I would see it that it would give your employees more opportunity, you know, more relaxed work schedule maybe, you know, maybe improvement for the cows because, you know, they can get milk when they want. I'd just be interested to hear what your views are on the topic of robotic milking.
Well, I think there's, you might not like what I have to say about it, but this is my view. We need to learn how to manage employees regardless. I don't care if you got a robot or what you got. You're not going to do it alone. And so if you're using that as an excuse to put in a robot, thinking, I don't want to do this, I don't want to manage employees, well, I think it's a risky decision. That's my opinion. I think it's a difficult transition over to robots. I went on a robot tour, and all the larger dairies that were trying to put in robots were struggling with them. And the smaller dairies that did it slowly seem to be doing all right. But it does tie you into a scenario that is risky, because really a good business model is if you don't grow, you're probably going to die. And I think that's been proven over time.
And like in my calf barn, it was supposed to be an automated calf barn. When we went from a 2-row to a 4-row barn, the plan was to do an automated calf barn. And at the last minute, I went back to a coworker of mine and we talked about it. And we talked about what are our strengths that we do well in the calf barn. And one of the things is individualized care. I mean, it's no joke. I mean, I laugh about it, but my 57 steps to raise a calf easily, and that's what we do well. We raise great calves. And if we put in the automated calf feeder, we didn't feel like we would still have that opportunity. And then if you have one sick calf, now you have a whole pen of sick calves. And that just wasn't, we don't like to see sick calves. We take pride in having, really few treatments, like 3 calves on electrolytes. And we have very extensive protocols for when we do have a sick calf, because we don't want them to be that way. So we stepped back and we said what we do well is individualized care. And so the automated calf barn got moved to a 4-row. So we went from 2 rows of pens to the 4. And it's worked out really well. It's just a new management philosophy and approach with that many more calves. But really it only added an extra hour to it used to be a 3-hour feeding schedule, and now it's a 4. So it really didn't add too much work, because again, we found efficiencies in how we do everything.
Jolene has a question.
So your components, you have a fat test that is a 4-2 fat test, a protein that is a 3-1-5, and yet I see Holsteins in the background. What do you attribute that success to?
Well, we did breed for components, so there's a breeding dimension to this, no doubt about it. In the 90s, we bred for deep-bodied cows that could consume a lot of forage. At the time, we were grazing, so we were rotationally grazing for a while. And I think that's a big part of it. We crossbred for a while. We got quite a bit of Jersey blood in the herd. That helped. And just feeding for it. There's a lot you can do to feed for components. There's a lot.
Any other questions at all?
So I'm actually Dr. Pogue's daughter. I'm not going to ask them a question. I'm just going to talk really highly about them real quick. I had the honor of having an internship this spring, and it was -45, and we didn't have a single loss of any calves lost. And this farm, they operate at the gold standard and no less. If it's not going to be the gold standard, they're not going to do it. And it's a beautiful dairy, and I loved working there so much. It was amazing. I've never seen a farm do so well. I mean, I was talking with Mike. He started out with 8 cows, and he's here now. Like, that's amazing. He's very progressive, and so is Heidi. Heidi does a great job. Their whole family does a great job, and if you ever want to learn how to do better, talk to them. They're amazing. So, yeah.
Thank you. And sit down.
For your calves, besides electrolytes, what do you use to treat the scours?
Probiotics. I mean, that's all you can do. You can only treat the symptoms. So what we do is once we see that a calf is scouring, so if a calf misses her milk, we use pasteurized whole milk. And so if she skips a meal, she gets a separate electrolyte that has more of a nutritional value to it. And that calf is banded so that the next person on the crew knows that she did not drink her milk at the last time, and she's a calf we want to keep an eye on. That doesn't mean just because she skipped one milk, that doesn't mean we immediately treat or we put her on the electrolyte treatment. But if she continues to scour and she's still not feeling well, we temper. And from there, it's usually just probiotics. And then once a calf is placed on electrolytes, another blue band gets placed on her pen, and we date it. And she's on that electrolyte for at least 7 days. So our philosophy is to get her through being sick and then safely on the other side, so we know that she won't crash again.
I think the vaccination program is important too.
Yeah, that's
for the
something
dry
we,
cows.
we didn't really touch on. Our vaccination program is very efficient because we have a low-touch philosophy with our animals. So we try to not handle them as much as we can. And an example of that is with our 12-month heifers, we place the SER collar on and we give them the vaccination right away. And we do that on Thursdays after herd health. So the animals are locked up for herd health, and as soon as herd health is done, we grab our little vaccination bucket and we head up on the hill and we vaccinate right away, and we do the collar so that they're being touched just for that. It's one instead of multiple days of us having to go up there and continue to do that. It's labor efficiency, and it's just better for the animal.
Do you use sex semen or the lower percentage of cows breed to beef at all?
Yeah, actually, that's something we just implemented because we're still in our growth stage on our farm. About 1,000 milking cows is where we'll end. So we had to put the brakes on a while ago, and we needed to control inventory. So each lactation group is broken out, and then from there, they're determined based on several different factors, maternal information, but we determined which ones are going to get bred to sex semen, and then the bottom ones get bred to beef. So first and second service is, for those top ones, is sex semen, and then the third service is beef. And if they're not pregnant at that point, we do look at the cow individually. So sometimes I sub in for herd health. So if I have a cow that, she was a third service, DNB, she still wasn't pregnant, we might DNB her. But before I do that, I always take those cows back to Eduardo. And him and I talk about, is this a cow we want to DNB? Is she a high producer? Is there more to her story that I don't know? Because, I'm out there at the cows with my wand, and I only know so much. So we go back and we talk about that. And if it's a high production cow, we might give her a little bit. But, that's, again, I think one of the things we do well is individualized care.
I think we're fast coming to the point in the dairy industry where the best farms are going to have elite cows with genome testing. You're seeing some unbelievable numbers in milk production nowadays. It's crazy.
Any other questions at all? Well, nevertheless, we'll cap it at that, and we're going to be around for a little while, so come up to us if you have any questions yourself, and appreciate your time. So.